What AI is really good at today is taking information in one form and translating it to another form. And the reason that this is great for people with disabilities is that people with disabilities intake information in a variety of ways. If you're deaf, you need that information to be visual. If you're blind, you need that information to be auditory. And if you're deafblind, you need that to be haptic. And the hope with this technology is that it's going to meet you where you are, which is, you really, hit the nail on the head when we started this conversation. And that's the hope. That's the good side.
AI isn't the future. It's now. And whether you're in HR, sales, operations, or leadership, the choices you make today will determine whether you thrive or get left behind.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome Joe Devon, a global leader in digital accessibility, co-founder of the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and one of the voices shaping how AI can empower millions of people with disabilities. Joe is at the center of the movement to build more inclusive technology, and this conversation dives into what's changing, what's possible, and why accessibility must be a part of every AI strategy. So let's dive in. Joe, you have spent over a decade advocating for digital accessibility, and I would love for you to first explain what accessibility really means in today's AI-driven world, because I think there's a lot of people who don't yet know, or maybe they think accessibility is still about physical spaces, not necessarily digital ones.
Yeah, accessibility is all about making digital products work for people with disability. And what it means in an AI world, what does anything mean in an AI world? It's changing so quickly that it's kind of impossible to define, because today is one thing, tomorrow is another. I would say that there's a lot of positive things going on because of AI, but there's also some negative things going on. And, because everything is shifting toward artificial intelligence, what happens is the tooling is a little bit better. So if you're sitting here, like we're recording a podcast, and depending on the budget, podcasters or YouTubers can go to a professional, and it's about $1 a minute to get it professionally captioned. But today with AI, you're able to do something like that much cheaper, especially if you have a technical bent. But on the other hand, more and more products are being created with AI, and it's opening the door for more people to create web pages and mobile apps and all kind of different ways of communicating with the world. And that results in a lower quality in so many ways. Like you'll go in and you'll read, we don't read newspapers much anymore, on paper, but you still have those brands are still coming out with papers. And then suddenly you'll see, that a major story, it will say something like, does that answer your question, Bob? Right. And it's clearly AI written. By the same token, a lot of the code is AI written, and it's getting to be sloppy, and people are sort of getting used to that sloppiness, but that can hurt a lot if you are using a screen reader. Is your audience familiar at all with accessibility, or more general?
I would say some people may be, but dive in, explain it, because there are going to be people who are listening who have no idea what you're talking about.
So, if you're blind, for example, you do not have the ability to see your mouse pointer. So your mouse is completely useless to you, and you have to use a keyboard to navigate. And the screen reader is software that reads the page out to you. But if you have a picture, for example, and there's a chart, and you are getting that screen reader to read the chart for you, it's something that if you don't use the right, like alt text, then, it won't know what it is. And here is the cool thing with AI. You can have, the software try and figure out what that image is, and even video, and speak it out. But it's not as good as the person who put together that web page or that content. They have a particular thing in mind when they created that picture. And when you can see it, you kind of get what that context is. And if not, you want the author to explain what that image is.
Yeah, I think this is so important because there's a lot of people out there who are content creators in some way, shape, or form, and they're throwing up pictures on things like their blog posts. They're not entering the alt text because they're going, what is this for? But it is for your audience to be able to digest and understand the information that you are putting out there. It's not just a placeholder for a picture. And so that's the importance behind ensuring that you're doing all of these things for accessibility. But Joe, I'd love to hear from your opinion with all the tech that's coming out with AI and accessibility. Are there places you think that we are still falling short?
First of all, the budgets are going down. Everybody's budget is going toward AI. And I know so many people that have serious expertise in accessibility that are laid off. They're looking for work. And the budgets were never big to begin with, to be quite honest. And now it's getting worse. But at the same time as it's getting worse, there's more software coming out, and you actually need to give training to the accessibility professionals because a lot of them are not aware of all these new tools that are literally changing every day. I'm sitting night and day on these different AI coding tools. And I've never seen anything so frenetic, where you have, Google came out with Gemini 3 last week. And it was so exciting. Everybody was talking about how good it was. And then a few days later, Anthropic comes out with Opus 4.5. And, the entire attention has moved toward that. And it's a great model, by the way. Since then, I've been really flying since 4.5 came out. And I know that OpenAI does not want to be left out. And now they're rushing out the new version of theirs before the end of the year. So we're going to see that again.
Oh, yeah. Man, frenetic was the perfect word to describe this,
yes.
Joe. That was absolutely flawless. And I know that we hear a lot about all of these tools and that it's going to, fix the accessibility problem. But I think the reality is a lot more nuanced than that. And I would love to hear from you. What are the problems that you think AI can solve right now? And what problems is it still creating?
So again, it's hard to be specific in terms of the problems it creates, beyond saying that, there's a lot more code out there that is inaccessible coming out. And I think, just to go a little bit deeper into what I was talking about earlier with accessibility teams, what 2026 is going to look like is that you have entire teams that have new technology. They're giving the developers the new technology, which is very expensive. And I've seen some cases where the accessibility teams are not getting even access to the same tools, at least not right away. And they should be getting it first, because if you have a disability and you're given an AI tool that's inaccessible, that's going to be a big problem. And most of those new tools are not really that accessible. So it starts with the tooling. If you are keeping people with disabilities out of the tooling, then you've already created a problem, from the get-go. And then they really need to start paying attention. Particularly, I think the AI coding models need to pay attention to how accessible the code they're generating is.
So I'm a little bit snickering in my head, Joe, because I'm thinking about all of the leaders of all of the great AI, gods that are out there, and they are all just these just dudes who are out there doing it. I'm a big women's advocate, so I see that women are being left out of these conversations right now. We're seeing that people with disabilities are being left out of these conversations. And so I just want to make the point for anyone listening, like, when you are doing these things, you need to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table, because I'm sure you would agree, like, how many of these problems could be solved if we had had a conversation about accessibility before launch?
Absolutely. The biggest problem is really that people with disabilities are being left out of the loop. And it's really a shame, because AI it's artificial intelligence. It's trying to emulate human beings. And if you want to have the best AI, then you really want to get those edge cases right. And where are the edge cases? Who knows better about the edge cases than accessibility professionals who've been dealing with every single type of human ability that there is? And there's so many aspects that people don't realize. Are you familiar with the term aphantasia?
No, I'm not.
So this is a fascinating condition that I happen to have as well. I struggle to visualize things. So even my parents who passed away, I can't really put a visual image of them in my mind. And then there's other people, they will tell you what somebody's shirt was. If you, like, I would walk on the street and somebody would be like, saying, "Oh yeah, Billy." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Your shirt." And I didn't even remember because I don't really visualize, right? So that's like blindness in your mind's eye. And then you have some people that have hyperphantasia where they have extremely vivid imagery. And so this is just a different kind of condition, right? And why does this matter? If you are reading something, for me, I love to read, but when I'm reading fiction and they'll spend pages describing a spaceship, if it's science fiction, or describing visually the scene, it's the most boring thing for me because I can't visualize it at all. And the transformer model, which is powering LLMs, that's what helped ChatGPT, that whole technology. They're very good at translations, right? And so what's really cool is you can take a visual conversation and turn that into something more amenable to somebody like me. So even though you don't want to take away the beautiful prose of a writer, it could help the writer to understand how to verbalize it differently. And different kind of cognitive disabilities are also impacted because you want to word things differently. And this is sort of, I mean, I'm a book lover. It's really painful to say this, but it is kind of cool to be able to summarize a book, especially a nonfiction book, to be able to change the language around. And a famous AI person, Andre Karpathy, he was saying that now he reads books together with AI. So he'll read the first thing himself, but then he'll sort of talk to the AI in order to gather more insights, explain things that he doesn't get. And I know I'm kind of rambling into different areas, but hopefully that kind of gives you, my thinking on AI and accessibility, how you might feel like they're not aligned, but they're completely aligned, and AI researchers that don't pay attention to this are missing out.
Yeah. Well, and as an HR professional, I always think about meeting people where they're at, right? The old way of working was like, this is how we do it. You come conform to us. And I do think the world has shifted and changed where there are a lot of organizations and people out there that believe in meeting people where they're at. And AI, I think, has the potential to be an incredible tool, because even if you just look at the generations that we have in the workforce, like we've got 5 generations in the workforce. That alone, you've got to change how you do things. But then when you layer in all the other complexities like gender differences and disabilities and cultural differences, like AI can help kind of close those gaps and make it more accessible for all, not to, steal the word accessibility, but I think it's going to be truly magnificent. But I want to ask you about, and you're going to have to forgive me, I don't know if you say it or spell it, but the AIMAC with ServiceNow. AMAC. Okay, so we say it. AMAC. And this is the industry's first benchmark for evaluating how well AI models generate accessible code. And I think this is going to be super fascinating. But can you tell me, what are the early insights that you've seen from this project?
All of these AI models, that people are talking to them, so they kind of see them almost like a human being. That it's like the movie Memento, where it can't remember everything. So it doesn't learn anything. It always kind of starts from scratch, losing all of its memory up to a certain point. And the training data sets or the pre-training that came in other words, all of the code that it looked at is what it knows. And it doesn't really kind of go beyond that unless you use some other techniques. And so, the training that they have, clearly color contrast is a huge issue, right? Because 80 to 90% of the problems that we're seeing are from color contrast. And just to explain what color contrast is, I have a tremendous difficulty. I got a surgery to improve my nearsightedness. And now if I have kind of gray on white background, it's very hard for me to see, and it needs to have a certain color contrast. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about the 5 generations. What people don't realize is that millennials, the oldest millennials are, I think, around 45 or so at this point. And when you're 40, your eyes start to degrade, and particularly around color contrast. And when you look at the generations, about half of the U.S. population is over 40. So you're going to need to worry about color contrast and the ability to up the fonts in order to have that readability. And 80 to 90% of the problems that we're seeing from the AI generated code are related to color contrast. There are a couple of others that show up in the data, but if they all fix that, we would see much better scores.
All right, Joe, I turned 40 this year, but I'm about to be 41 in February. So is this why I can no longer, I hate driving at night because there's no contrast?
Yes, exactly. I hate driving at night too. It's crazy.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about some of these AI-driven assistive tools like alt text, captions. There are also things like audio descriptions and even personalized interfaces. Are there any others out there that are really exciting you, or kind of what do you think can come out of this?
Well, my friends with disabilities, most of them are really happy with AI. It's helped in so many ways. And I'll give you one example, which is really cool. I had a series of videos that I wanted to share with a friend group. It's like a CTO group, and 2 of the people in that group are blind. And this was particularly an interesting video for them, but there was no sound whatsoever. So I'm like, all right, let me see if I can vibe code. If you're familiar with that tool, where that term it basically means you do not, even if you're a programmer, you don't even look at a single line of code. You just go with the vibes and you ask the LLM to write code for you. So I vibe coded a solution in 1 hour. What I did was I took the video and then I passed it to an AI model to analyze every single frame of that video. And from there, it was a ton of text. So I had it sort of summarize that and turn that into an audio description script. And then from there, I went to another. So that was the second AI model, was turning it into a script. The third AI model took that script and turned it into an audio track. And then I used another AI model to stitch that audio track into the original video. There was another model that did that text to speech, and then another model to stitch that together. And after an hour, now I have a script that takes a video file and turns it into an audio description. So now it'll take me about 5 minutes to do the exact same thing. And this is just from vibe coding. Needless to say, a year earlier, that would have been completely impossible. It would have taken forever I wouldn't have even tried.
What's crazy to me is this is how far we've come in just 12 months. And the technology is just speeding up innovation, the development of these new tools. I don't even know where we're going to be in the next, 3-6 months coming up. So it's super exciting stuff, especially for people who need different accessibility tools. I think this is going to be just a game changer for people. But Joe, as AI takes over more of the digital experience, what are the risks that you see for people with disabilities if we get this wrong?
everything is being written by AI. So if we get this wrong, then it's just going to take a bad situation and make it worse. And because all of the accessibility teams are losing their budgets and they're getting laid off in large numbers, we've spent years where we had sort of a renaissance where accessibility was a really big part of the conversation. And then the second that the CFOs felt like they didn't need to spend money on it, they took that budget away. And that is just a horrible shame. And there's a reason that it kind of grew, because it impacts so many people, and we have an aging population. And so that aging population means that more people are developing disabilities all the time. The numbers are huge, but it's really hard to get people who are focused on the business side of life to really see that. And that's going to be sort of a disaster. So that's the downside of it. And when the web came out, I remember being so excited that it was going to empower the small businesses and the independents. And in a way it has, but it's all big tech sort of figured out how to centralize it. And so everybody is sitting there on social media instead of having their own home on the web. And now we're sitting here with AI, and it's about the winner take all. Like that's the term. I fear that we're going to see another one of those winner take all situations. And if that happens and it's just in the control of a few, we're going to have no choices out there. That's my big fear.
Yeah. Oh, that is a scary one too. Let's keep going on this ethical train, right? Because there's a lot of people who have growing concerns about AI and what ethical responsibility looks like. And I know that you speak a lot about this. And I would love to know, what does protecting human dignity look like in practical terms when it comes to AI, when it comes to ethical responsibilities and designing these AI systems?
Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he does lots of interviews. And in one of them, he mentioned that thousands of people per week that have spoken to ChatGPT have committed suicide. And this is happening by the thousands, like every week or every month. The numbers are staggering. And of course, when you're dealing with 800 million people, you're going to have those kind of situations. But there's a tremendous amount of responsibility for these companies to not to misuse, their ability to convince people of things. So when you look at social media, for example, the big tech CEOs, they would not allow their children to use it. And there's some videos going out there that from Sean Parker. He did a conference where he said that this was impacting children's brains, that they knew about it and they did it on purpose, right? They knew it was impacting children's brains. They weren't 100% sure how, but they were basically getting everybody addicted. And now you can't go to the bathroom without your phone. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. But with AI, it's going to replace companionship in a lot of ways. The generations after me, don't have that same ability to communicate. You're sitting there with your friends and everybody's on their phone. I remember, years ago sitting down with a friend who had kids. Everybody was there and they were all on their phone while watching a movie. But frankly, I mean, I do that kind of thing too, right?
We're all guilty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The cool thing about going to the movie theater is that there's still people there that are on their phones, but so you have this isolation, and it's only going to grow when you're spending your day with an AI that gets to know you. As these technologies get better, you won't need to communicate with anyone else, and I think it's going to hurt a lot of people, particularly if the CEOs of these companies don't care. And it's hard to tell sometimes, but it feels like some of them really don't care.
Yeah. And I mean, who's to say, right? I mean, we definitely don't know, but I do think that is a growing concern. And, when we talk about how ever present everything digital is in our lives and social, and how our brain's attention span is now down to 1 second, otherwise we're bored and on to the next thing. You talked about connectedness. I also worry about vulnerability, because I think vulnerability makes so many of us stronger. But if we're only being vulnerable with our little AI companions and we're not being human with the actual humans around us, what then happens, right? And then we could turn this into a whole philosophical podcast.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have a friend with you, right? And they're going to turn this into characters that are speaking to you and that can see everything that you see. One of the cool aspects, one of the cool but horrible in some ways aspects is you have these glasses that can see and hear the world around you. And so if you're blind, that can be really useful. A lot of my blind friends use the Meta Ray-Ban
glasses. Yeah.
And they don't use it everywhere, but when going to the airport is one example where, okay, where do you go? What's around you? There's so many strangers around you. You have to go to a particular gate, and it's really helpful to understand and see the environment around you. But everybody already, wherever you go, you can be on camera, and now somebody can have on their glasses film video, and you'd have no idea whatsoever. And that gets really creepy. But then you have some people that need it because of their disability, and there already been many years ago early versions of this technology where people have gotten beaten up because they're wearing this technology, and people didn't like the loss of privacy. That's just going to keep getting worse, that loss of privacy. And imagine you have this whole history of conversation, and you have these machines that can see and hear and understand what's happening in your life. Probably they'll understand you better than you understand yourself, and better than your family understands you in some ways. That can be used for good, and it can be used for evil, and it's going to be used for both. That's the whole thing. Technology is always a double-edged sword. If you're trying to protect your family, having a gun is great, but if you're the robber, it's terrible. So it just depends what end of that you're on, right?
Yeah, well, and there's, good and evil with everything, and dark and bad for everything. So I do think it's important to kind of notice those things and call them out. But Joe, I want to talk about companies that might lack a strong accessibility foundation, especially if they're thinking about, implementing some sort of AI tool. What do they need to be aware of? What should they be looking for when they're evaluating different AI tools so that they are investing in a tool that can be for everybody?
Well, I would start with test the tools and speak to human beings. Your employees are human beings, and a lot of them have disabilities that they don't talk about. And I'm going to be a little bit vague here, but I'll give one example. I've created this day, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, that goes viral every year to the tune of, we stopped counting when we hit 220 million people on social media. Within a few years, and this thing has gotten so big that Stevie Wonder has given a concert on the Apple campus. Big tech, a lot of the big tech companies changed their webpage for the day, and then it kind of culminated with 2024. The White House celebrated the event, and so this is how many people that it touches. Even though everything about, what I do is about accessibility, I had an employee who was a designer, and he even hid from me that he was colorblind, not because he didn't trust me, not because he didn't trust the people in the company, but there's a tremendous fear that if it gets out somehow, that as a designer, you're colorblind, he just has a lot of, sorry, I don't even want to say the gender, right? This person, has a lot of, fear that it's going to be a stigma. Oh, why would I hire a designer that can't see the colors? And so, if I'm in a situation where I had a designer on my team that didn't want to share being colorblind, you can imagine that if you don't have any kind of reputation of taking care of your employees or that you care about people with disabilities, and now you're going to have an employee with a disability, you need to do that testing. You need to talk to your employees, and you need to provide an environment where they feel that they can share what's going on with them. And if you don't, you're going to be locking people out, and you're also going to not get the best out of your people.
Yes, and not to turn this into a podcast about the culture of belonging, but you've got a chief people officer here and you got an accessibility king here, so you're going to get that. If you want good work, you've got to set your people up for success, and you've got to be able to allow them to bring all of those pieces to work without the fear. And I know that fear exists for so many people in different nuances or avenues. You know, women are out there, they don't want people to know they're pregnant because who would hire a pregnant person? They don't want people to know if they have kids because they might not want a promotion. Like, there's all these layers, and it's so important to create that culture of belonging so that everyone can show up and give their best work. And then, you know what? Watch your bottom line grow there. Okay. But
exactly. Yeah.
Joe, we love to have some fun on this podcast. And one of the things that we do, which really helps us showcase how people use AI differently, is we play a fun little game called Last Chat. And this is where we always have our guests, and I will share too, so don't worry, but they go into their latest chat tool, whether they're using ChatGPT, Gemini, or something totally different, and they tell us, like, what were they using it for, and then what happened with that prompt. So I would love to just hear from you. What has been your last chat?
I mean, I'm on this constantly, night and day. I'll give you the last two, if that's okay.
I love it. Let's do it.
One of them was preparing for this episode. I went to Notebook LM, and if you're not familiar with that, that's a Google product that started out by taking sources. You could upload videos, you could upload a PDF, any kind of content, and it turns it into a podcast. And I sent them the AMAC URL, and this morning I listened to a podcast in the shower of AMAC, and it did an amazing job of analyzing every single element and a whole bunch of technical details that I would be hard pressed to speak as well as they did about. They were talking about, we have like a dampening of color contrast, because if you have like 100 color contrast issues on a page, you don't want that one metric to overly weight it. So there's a whole mathematical formula, and I'm not I'm not a math nerd, so I had to do a lot of work with LLMs to figure out that equation to use, and the AI really through Notebook LM explained it really, really well. But I'll add another one. The pilot light in my fireplace went out, and I just took a bunch of pictures of the panel and tried to find out how is it that I relight this pilot light, and it had me like to take a look at different kind of detailed pictures, and then it laid it out for me perfectly and got that done in about 10 minutes, which probably would have taken me a couple of hours otherwise.
Oh my goodness, it's so fascinating. Well, I'll tell you what I did with mine, because we love to share. But I have an online community for women called Her Collective. And I was trying to figure out, like, of course, like every other content creator out there, what the heck am I supposed to do for content this week? But I really wanted to get super deep and personal with my people so that it would be relatable. And so what I did was I took a transcript of one of our group coaching sessions, and I had created a whole chat agent to help me pull out the pain points that associated with the exact quotes that they had, the timestamp from the podcast so I could go back to it. What were the themes? Was it confidence? Was it feeling stuck? And all of that, so that I could have this story bank repository of everything I could ever need. And I will then take all of that to create digital assets, sales pages. I mean, you name it. I'm getting that information directly from my audience, which we all know that's what works, and then putting it out there into the world. But it's just so fascinating, everything it can do. So, Joe,
That's
thank you for
awesome.
sharing that. Yeah.
Can I ask what tool you used to
I
do
did
that?
ChatGPT for all of it.
Great.
Yeah, my chat gets me. I love my chat girl. But Joe, I would love to hear just any last pieces of advice when it comes to AI and accessibility, or any last message that you want the world to hear.
Play with all of the different tools. Do not be scared of it. Check them out, and not just ChatGPT, even though it's great. There are lots and lots of other AI tools. Check all of them out and understand that what AI is really good at today is taking information in one form and translating it to another form. And the reason that this is great for people with disabilities is that people with disabilities intake information in a variety of ways. If you're deaf, you need that information to be visual. If you're blind, you need that information to be auditory. And if you're deafblind, you need that to be haptic. And the hope with this technology is that it's going to meet you where you are, which is, you really, hit the nail on the head when we started this conversation. And that's the hope. That's the good side. And let's watch out for the bad side.
We will keep our eyes open for the bad side, but there's so much good coming in with all of this technology. It is so exciting, especially for the world of accessibility. So, Joe, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Thanks for joining us on AI, Voice or Victim. If you want to stay competitive in the AI age, start now. Take one insight from today's episode and put it into practice in the next 24 hours. Make sure to follow us, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more actionable AI insights. See you next time.